Okay, so what do we have next? Formatting. We're almost done. So if you can't print it, it's not a lot of use. So we have to get it down to something that will actually print and looks decent and isn't too confusing. So we want to have something laid out with some lines around it, maybe some shading, formatting for currency, and so forth. Now the way this spreadsheet was already set up is it was figuring out the dollar signs and stuff. But if they hadn't put in dollar signs here, again, you would highlight it, go to Home, and pick the type you want to use, number, accounting, whatever it is. So looking down here, it's got these. Now, typically, it's not going to do the dollar signs for us. It did them this time because I sort of have done this before and I deleted out the numbers, but I didn't get rid of the formatting. So when we put new numbers in, it figured out, well, it used to be money. Let's make it money again. So that's what happened. But look, I got a combination here. This one is currency. That one is accounting. Notice how the dollar sign lines up and so forth. I actually like the way the accounting one looks. Let's do that for all of them. Now the easy way, highlight, highlight, highlight. I'm going to get all three of those and just change it so they're all the same thing. Accounting. Now there's a point on this I want to make though. I see this one a lot out in the industry when I'm working, and it's this mistake that a lot of people make that actually has some issues with it. If I highlight from here all the way over to the right, and let's say I want to make that a color. I'm going to make a nice little background of gray or something there. Great, looks good on my screen, but here's the problem. Look how far this thing goes. That gray line goes on and on and on. Now, here's the problem with that. You might be thinking, well, great, I'm not going to print that part. But when you save it, Excel has to keep in mind every cell you have something in. And suddenly this spreadsheet went from being this tiny little page to something that goes out 65,000 some odd columns by God knows how many down. So it becomes this huge spreadsheet. So I've seen people build spreadsheets that barely run, all because they went and did one of these little tricks where they went and highlighted out an area and did formatting for it. So really, that what I did earlier, that can bite you sometimes. If you highlight all of them and format for them, it knows all the way down to hundreds of thousands of rows down that those are all now accounting. So the tidier way, the better way of doing it than what I did, oops, I added an extra one here. Let me get rid of that. That was right-click, delete, is to highlight what you really want to change, Control-Shift, down arrow, and turn that into currency or accounting or whatever. That way it's only affecting those areas. Much better practice. The way I did earlier worked, but it's a bit lazy and actually has some bad repercussions. Okay, so enough of a tangent there. Shading. Okay, so let's come back to here. And I want to make this look nicer. So I'm thinking, first off, let's put a box around it. So the boxes, hit this drop down, maybe a thick outer box. Remember, none of these lines are actually going to print. So maybe I might change these ones here. Now there's some other fun little functions. I can use these cell styles. And maybe I'm going to use this guy here. Now it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. It's just changing the color and so forth. But it's a little easier than me having to pick one and so on. Okay, and I think I'm going to make this a light gray. No, Control-Z, undo. Always easier to undo than to try to fix it. Okay, I'm going to shade that one. I'm going to shade that one. And maybe make it a little bit whiter because those numbers look like they're barely fitting. Oh, look, we got inconsistent type of formatting here. So let's do that. Choose one or the other. I'm going to do currency. Now, look at this here, 19.4961. That's a lot of decimals. That's probably not going to matter to anybody that way, especially for averages. So let's reduce it. So to reduce them up here under number, there's add zeros, remove some. Watch what happens. Now, by doing this, it's just rounding off the display. It's not rounding off the actual fractions. So if I use this number again in another formula, it's going to use all those decimal spots. Even though it only says 19.5 right now, if I multiply it by 2, it's actually not going to come out to 19.5 times 2 exactly. It'll come out to 19.461 times 2. So most of the time that doesn't matter, but keep that in mind. Maybe I should bold that. Okay, so next, printing. Right now, File, Print, and I get a print preview. And it's just a little ugly box in the corner. It could be bigger, but I also probably should tell it exactly what I want to print, because what if I had some other stuff over here? It would then print that as well. So if all I want is just this stuff here to print, highlight it, page layout, print area, set print area. So now, no matter what's over here, if I go to File, Print, that little word high didn't show up. Next. Now sometimes I want to make this fit no matter what. You could use this up here. Say, hey, automatically jam it down to fit inside one page, or now it's not doing it because it's tiny. But you could choose in here, there we go, one page and so forth. So you can use that on something that's a little bit bigger and it squishes it down, makes the font smaller so it fits. There are some downsides though. I've seen ones where it's taken like 10 pages and squished it down to one page, and then people hand it to you and it's like, I can't read this even with a microscope. It's so tiny. So keep that in mind. This here though is useful too. I could use this then to just knock the scale up or down a little bit manually. Now when I'm doing this, I'm going to go somewhere crazy first so you can see what possible happens. 500%. 400 is maximum. Okay. Notice this little dotted line right here. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see that. This is how we zoom in. There's this light dotted line. In fact, there's another one right there too. What those dotted lines mean, they weren't here earlier, is this is telling me that if I print this right now, this is as much as can fit on one page. I'll get page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. It's going to take 4 pages with that dotted line. So I just have to start moving this thing out until that dotted line moves. Wonder where that's going to be. Oh, looks like it was at about 300. And it's down at the bottom. Let's go. Oh, it's still right here though. Look. See, total net. So that's going to cut off too. So I better keep going. Watch the dotted line. There it goes. It's out. All right, we're at 290 for me. So let's take a look. File, print. Filled up the whole page. That's a big number. You probably don't need it that big, but it illustrates the point. Let's go ahead and leave it there. Okay, I'll go back. So again, that was using the scale to change the size. If I changed to 1 and 1, it wouldn't have changed anything. It's only when we make it smaller is when you want to use that. The other options here, if you want to switch it on your side, a lot of spreadsheets look better on their side, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we talked a bit about the ribbon. We talked about using the formatting, the shading on there. If you want, you could use these pre-formatted selections here under cell styles to change the dollar signs, the percentages, and so on. Use this little drop down. You have to highlight what you want to change. Remember to use the rounding to round off some of the numbers here. The print area, we went to page layout. We highlighted what we wanted to actually select. Then under page layout, in the page setup area was print area. We hit the drop down and chose select print area. And then you can change this up a bit to make it bigger, whatever you want it to be. Just don't make sure it fits on one page still. And at the end, you should end up with something that looks like that. Okay, so that wraps it up here. Go ahead and finish up your work then. Save it. Make sure everything matches up here and you do well. And then submit this on up to our learning management system. And thank you very much. I hope this helped out. Bye-bye.